because we have some really great information to share with you today. Today is the third session in our series with Native Nutrition for Prevention and Healing. And it's really important for us to look at various ways in which we help our people, our relatives, find good paths, good journeys for healing in their lives. And so this session is going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past and the way we traditionally think of healing. So I would love for you to engage and listen and ask questions because of the different perspective that we're going to be looking at this. It's really important that when we think of the way we heal our people or that we provide prevention, that we need to be mindful of our children as young as infancy and those who are in utero also. So I'm really excited about today's session. I'm Dr. Allison Bays, and I work at the Native Center for Behavioral Health, specifically in our prevention office with the Technology Transfer Center. And I'm going to share some slides with you all. And then I'm going to turn it over to our presenter for today. And you are welcome to listen, post questions in the chat, raise your hand with the little emoji icon if you have a question also as she's sharing with you all. And at the end of our session today, we are going to have some time to ask some questions and engage as well. If you want to write them down and ask them at the end, that'd be fine as well. It's really important to know that while our presenter is speaking or while other people are speaking, if you can just mute yourself so that we can have minimal feedback as things are being processed. But again, I want to thank you for being here and being a part of this afternoon's session. And hopefully you can see the slideshow. Do you see the one with the map or do you see the full slide? Jason, do you see the map? If you can do a thumbs up if you see the map. Okay, good. Thank you. Again, this is the third in our series for Native Nutrition for Prevention and Healing, because we know it's important to look at how we can continue to heal our families, heal ourselves, and be on a good journey. So we're providing good information that is practice-based evidence. So it looks at our traditions, our strengths as Native communities to see how we can help in this field of prevention. We are one of 12 centers across the country that serve communities for prevention services. We're located at the University of Iowa, kind of in the center of your map there. We have the privilege of serving our tribal communities in the lower 48, as well as up in Alaska. We are funded by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And so the content of this event is the creation of our presenter. And the opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the policies of SAMHSA, HHS, or our National American Indian Alaska Native Prevention Center. As a follow-up to today's event, please know that you'll have an opportunity to get information from us. You'll be receiving the video of the slide deck. You'll also get a GIPRA code, which is an evaluation survey that we encourage you to please take because it helps us understand what you learned from this. It helps us understand what we did well in this session, and it helps us understand how we can do better with future sessions just like this for each of you. So know that the survey is anonymous, cannot be traced back to you, but it's really important that you help us with key information and take the time to do the survey. I'll provide this link that's here on the screen for you right now. I will provide it a few times through the course of our time together this afternoon in the chat box. Although we are gathered virtually today, it's really important for us to take the time to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken over and inhabited, past and present. We want to honor the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout generations. This calls each of us to commit to forever learn how to be better stewards of these lands through action, advocacy, support, and education. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and the forced occupation of Native American territories, and we respect the many diverse Indigenous people connected to this land on which we gather from time immemorial. While injustices are still being committed against our people on Turtle Island, today we say thank you to those that stand with us and acknowledge that land reparations must be made to allow for our healing for all Indigenous peoples and to Mother Earth herself. I want to give credit to 3 of my former colleagues who wrote this for our center, Ella and Keely Driscoll, as well as Mr. Sean Bear, all 3 of whom are from the Meskwaki settlement. And at this time, I'd like to invite our presenter to offer prayer and her own words of land acknowledgement before I introduce her formally.
Nyansen Dichikaz, Migazi and Dodam. I offer my prayers today for all of you that have joined me here in the circle, that have joined us today to be part of this.
I'm in, but I can't get the noise. I can't make it.
Indigenous people. I also want to offer my prayers for the land, for the water, for the birds that fly, for all the animals, the 4-legged, for the 4 directions, and for Mother Earth, and safety for all those who are unsheltered right now, and prayers that they find a meal. And I also want to offer prayers for those who are struggling with chemical abuse and misuse, and say miigwech for today. We kind of a little bit talked about land acknowledgement and what does that mean, and in our brief calls before starting this PowerPoint presentation. And I just wanted to say that how I acknowledge the land is by taking care of the water, by taking care of the animals. And that's what land acknowledgement means to, Native people. It's something we've been doing for centuries. So I just wanted to offer that reflection for you today. What will you do for the land and the water, and what will you do to take care of it? Miigwech.
Thank you, Suzanne. Again, thank you to everybody who's joined us. As we get ready to get started with our session, I want to invite you to please put who you are, who you serve in the chat box so we can see who's joining us across the lower 48 and maybe in a different country, because we know we serve a huge community of Indigenous peoples who are interested in learning how we can serve our communities better, how we can go back to tradition, how we can reclaim our ancestral knowledge and be better stewards of our land, of our food, of our animals, and live healthier lives. So I want to say thank you on behalf of our center for joining us. I'm Allison Bays. I'm Tapilam Powhatan Nation from the South Texas area, and I serve as the program coordinator here with our Native Center in the prevention field. I see a lot of familiar faces and names on the screen, so thank you all if you've been on one of our sessions before. Miigwech, Nalit Sam, thank you for being here. It's really good to have a good group of people who are serving our families in the field of prevention. Normally, when we think of our prevention science field, we're thinking of treating those who are in need of dealing with substance use disorders. And yes, that is important work, but I also want us to think about the other health inequities that our people face when it comes to our diets and what we eat and how we have to adjust and be mindful of our obesity and our diabetes preventions. And we need to start with our little ones. And that's why I've invited our presenter, our expert in this field, to come and share with us. Suzanne Nash and I met a few months ago, actually, out in Minneapolis. I had an opportunity to meet her at her office at the Indigenous Peoples Task Force, where she has worked for 21 years in different capacities. She's the housing director, she's a program manager, she works on the garden curriculum, and she's facilitated different workshops on tobacco cessation, education, and policy work with various tribes across Minnesota and the urban area. For about 18 years, she's organized and facilitated statewide conferences around tobacco and in the important cultural teachings regarding how we use this, how we use traditional foods, and important environmental issues, because we know the work does not stop. We always know that we have to keep teaching our little ones and our families how we can be better stewards of the land and how we can be better to one another. In this field of prevention science is really important to share the message and to work together in unison, carrying on our traditions. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Suzanne. And you can let me know, Suzanne, if you want me to share the slide deck or if you want to share it yourself. We can do it
Sure.
either way.
If you want to share it, that would be great.
Okay. So again, as you're joining us, make sure you put who you are, where you're coming from in the chat box and make sure that you're muted. Oops. Sharing the wrong slide deck. Sorry about that. And you'll be given an opportunity to share any questions, concerns. You can post those in the chat box, or you can use your hand emoji, or you can hold them till the end if you'd like. How's that, Suzanne? Ready?
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, Buju Nyansen Dishikas Megazine Dotum. What I said to you was hello in my language, and my spiritual name is Nyans, which means a brown bird that survives the winter. And my clan is the Migizi clan. My Western name is Suzanne Nash, and I work at Indigenous Peoples Task Force as a program manager for a few different programs, including our housing department. So I'm glad to be here today. I'm going to talk to you about our Indigi Baby program. We started off with a grant we got about maybe 9 years ago in the making. I think it's been to talk about maternal health and child nutrition, and we created a curriculum, and we'll get into that a little bit more on how to use our cultural teachings and teach young ones about food and how food is medicine, and have some sessions in there to teach them how to grow food and how to take care of some food. Next slide. So our story. So like I said, it started off about 9 years ago with a vision, and Native Americans used to be healthy with access to foods that were low in fats and sugars and starch. We ate foods that grew on the land and the water. Everything was organic. This changed when the US government moved Native Americans to reservations, and their diets changed by eating commod foods, white flour, white sugar, canned meat, which are high in fat and calories and low in nutrients. Highly processed foods continue to be common in many Native homes today. The impact this has left Native people particularly vulnerable to chronic illness such as diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Next. The Indigi Baby Food Goal is to increase access to healthy baby food made from traditional indigenous foods such as squash, wild rice, sweet potatoes, and berries. Formulated to be high in antioxidants with low glycine, and these foods promote development of healthy gut and reduce the high rates of obesity and disproportionately affect Indigenous children in Minnesota. We hope to partner with the WIC programs. This is still in the making. We hope to make sure that all babies have access to our baby food that we've just made through the final stage, and we'll talk about that a little bit and further down the line in the slideshow. Next. So part of what we do is reclaiming our cultural teachings. And what I mean by that is reclaiming traditional tobacco, because everything we do, for myself as an Ojibwe woman here in Minnesota, is the gift that was given to us was traditional tobacco. And so we want to reclaim that from the colonization of commercial tobacco and changing our youth and our community and our staff the way that they use tobacco, reminding them that it is sacred. And reminding it that when we use it for in a commercial cigarette, that we're abusing that medicine, teaching them about those chemicals that sit in that medicine, but reminding them that everything we do starts with that. When we plant, we offer our tobacco. When we do programming, we do a tobacco ceremony. when we ask a spiritual person or a healing person to do something for us, we offer them that tobacco or tobacco tie. When we want to travel, we offer our tobacco. And so reclaiming our cultural ways of using tobacco, since we could not practice it since 1890 up until 1978. So teaching those that I was a part of that era that could not practice our cultural teachings during that time, as I'm 53. So part of my time was spent doing traditional tobacco ceremonies, namings, hiding, blanketing the windows, doing it quietly, so that nobody else knew what we're doing. Because if you did this after 1890, you could be arrested and you were hauled off to jail. This happened. This was a part of history. So reclaiming that platform to be able to begin practicing our cultural ways and using this as a gift and being grateful for this medicine that we have. Next. We hope to increase access to traditional birthing practices, healthy foods, our relationship with Mother Earth, and the relationship between mother and child. And as you see here, this is a baby in a cradle. Next. This project has 4 primary objectives, which include, now this has changed over time. Like I said, we've been doing this for a while. We've had a lot of learning experiences along the way, and each time they've increased. But the basic concept is to increase traditional cultural practices, to increase knowledge and skills in traditional native foods, nutrition, production, harvesting, and processing. And what I mean by that is by growing our own food, cultivating and harvesting and processing it, learn how to take care of it. Also to increase access to cultural foods, taking the kids ricing. The reservation I'm from, Boyce Fort, Band of Ojibwe, in the upper part of Minnesota, is the only bed of wild rice that has grown that has never had a motorized boat on it. So it's really important to practice that, keeping that rice sacred, without any of the engines, the oils, the stuff that come along with the boats. Also to increase access to Indigibaby food for Indigenous communities, making sure that our communities have access to foods that do not have sugar in it, do not have preservatives in it, going back to the old days. And so that's what our baby food will have. Next. So food sovereignty, what does that mean? Because food sovereignty might mean something different to the Europeans, or, you know, people have their own ideas of what food sovereignty means. The definition of food sovereignty in Indian country is the ability of an individual to create relationship with the land, the plants, and the animals. Today, Indigenous people have been were removed from the land since 1950s, have seen Indigenous people during the removal periods of the US government relocated to urban areas. So when the Government Removal Act came, they were relocated and promised land, they were promised food, and none of that stuff happened. So we offer our SEMA when we plant and when we harvest. So we want to go back to taking care of that land, singing to our plants, in turn provide us with food. So, you know, if you take care of the land, it will bring you food. You know, if you use their medicines, the food will grow. And that is food sovereignty. Next. And then the Giko, Amagagan, Gitawin, Gitagan, and Ojibwe means the teaching garden. And this is our curriculum that we have. And there's 9 lessons in the beginning. We now have 12. We just added 2. So it's introduction to the curriculum, relationship to your spirit, relationship to prenatal health, maternal and child nutrition, Mother Earth, relationship to the world, relationships to food through culture, the family garden pot. So we teach kids how to create their own pot and grow their own food in that pot. And then the garden songs and activities, and medicines and foods, different kinds. And then we do a community celebration at the end with the family to show them what the kids have learned. and create that ceremony, because we know everything we do either begins with a feast or ends with a feast. Next. So here we have a couple of our farm staff and youth that were learning how to do compost, to create compost tea brew that we use in our gardens to help give back to the soil, to take care of the soil people, to make sure that they are there. And there's many different soil people that we need. There's nematoids, there's worms, earthworms, and fungus are all the things that we need for our food to grow beautiful and be strong. Next. And here's a picture of our garden that we first started off with about 9 years ago. We spent a lot of time rebuilding the soil, and about 3 years ago now, we moved to a different area and we have a much bigger garden. Next. And then here's a picture of our ET squash and the corn that we grow out at our garden. Next. And then here's a picture of our three sisters, the corn, squash, and beans growing together. And now if you see that, like, this is without any pesticides. We don't use anything in our soil. It's all organic soil. We've actually rebuilt it so that it's a better soil. Okay, next. Oh, and I should say this was like the first version mini garden, Three Sisters, we did in the back of my office. This is where we actually got started about 9 or 10 years ago, was a little plot. And right here you see they're picking the tobacco seeds off the tobacco plants. Next. And this is an aerial version of our new farm. This is the farm design that our farmers and youth created. We wanted to use that 4 directions model. And this is what it looks like from an aerial zoom. So here's where you see where the 4 directions is where we're actually growing. And then we have the sweet potatoes here, but then over here to the right, that's where we're rebuilding some of that soil. And then we flip it each year. And then this thing that kind of looks like a worm there, it's not, it's actually one of the owners created this star, one of the star peoples. I can't remember which one it is. Big Dipper. The Big Dipper. Sorry, that's the Big Dipper. Okay, next. And then this is planting the cover crops. So like I said, we plant the cover crops to help take care of the soil. Next. And then here is our first shot at taking the squash and preserving it, learning how to package it for the winter. And it was our first time ever doing it, so it was an amazing experience. Next. And so along the way, when we first started thinking about IndigiBaby, we wanted it to be its own entity. We wanted it to be able to sustain itself. We wanted to provide a way to strengthen our programming, but also for our work to become sustainable. So we knew in that process we had to create a business plan for our product. And we decided that it starts with youth. So we involved the youth in creating the business plan. And this is a workshop here where we're working with them. Next. And then the wild foods we gather. So as you can see here, this is the wild blueberries from our farm. And then also in the other picture is the wild rice growing on Nut Lake. And that's the reservation I'm from. And that's where we get all of our rice from. Next. And here is the very first product of our baby food. We we created the food from the garden and we created the samples and the product. And we decided we wanted to have wild rice. And then we were going to have wild rice and blueberries, and squash and rice and squash. And so this is our first time having staff sample our product that we created from scratch. It was kind of fun. We had to mark down and we had people tell us what they thought, how did it feel in their mouth, and what was it like? And really from the get-go, it was actually very positive. Next. And then this is our Indigi Baby. This is our label for our product. And this is actually a real live Indigi Baby, taken picture of, created and drawn up from a professor that we worked with, who used to be at the Duluth University of Minnesota. Her name is Melissa Lewis, and this is her son. So she had sent a picture to our boss. We're like, he's so cute. This is our Indigi Baby. So we added some stuff to it, and her husband actually drew it up, and we loved it. And this will be our model, and this is our label for our baby food. Next. Indigenous Gerber Baby. So, and also here you will see the Indigi Baby food labels with the nutritional values, where we have the different products, wild rice and blueberry, wild rice. Yeah. And so we've gotten a little bit better with the labeling, but this is pretty much it. And then we have some more products right now. Next. And then here it is. Just a week ago, we got the first jar of our Indigi Baby food done up. We're so excited to finally have this packaged and done. It was a lot of learning. We had to figure out the licensing, how to get it approved, because we weren't using preservatives or sugar in it. So we had to figure out a way how to balance that out. But not only that, we had to figure out how, since we did it in such a small amount, when we created it, how was it changed when it became in a bigger batch. That product changed a little. And so one of the other problems we found out was that we were in a hard time finding a packaging company that would work with us because we're so small. And so we ended up partnering with Sean Sherman, the Shoe Chef, and his food lab that he has, and they have been the ones to package and put the baby food together. So that's our product. I'm so excited for it to get out in the market. Next. And now here, I'm going to show you a video of our farm with some pictures and them being in action. So it won't let you just click for some reason. If you do control down and then go to add the hyperlink, or do you want me to try and share it? Okay, here it goes. I think, are you guys getting the sound? There's no sound. You might want to start from the beginning.
You're not able to hear the sound either, Suzanne?
No.
Okay, let me change my settings. Let me stop sharing for just a few moments. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I know it's a sound issue on my end that I have to figure out. I can do it quick enough.
So while she's doing that, I'll just explain. When we first created the curriculum, we worked with, we first started working off with kids that were from 8 to 12-year-olds, because we felt like the teenagers had a lot of programs already for them. So we wanted to really work with the younger kids to teach them younger. And then somewhere down the line, we decided that why not start with the babies? Why not start from the beginning? Once they're done with breast milk, that they would, be introduced to food. So we figured it was a good time, giving the history and how sugar affects you, is that if we can create baby food that has no sugar or preservatives in it, that would help sustain that first connection to sugar and commodities to hopefully change their approach and their diet. And that's why we decided that we were going to take our what we know and decide to run with it and create this baby food.
Okay, we're going to try it again. And someone let me know if you cannot hear the audio, please. Nothing?
No audio. Do you want me to try?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
I
You-
changed my speaker settings, but
Do I have access to share?
you should have, let me see, go back to you.
I can try and see if it'll let me.
Yes, you do have privilege.
Okay. So let me see if I can do this.
Thank you. And while we're doing that, while she's setting that up, just a reminder, please put who you are, where you serve, what tribal community you're involved with. I appreciate all the comments. You're always welcome to post questions in the chat box also. And at the end, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and engage with Suzanne about the work that she's doing, where you can find the baby food, where you might be able to order the baby food from. It's really important to help our little ones start their lives out in a very healthy way. And one of the things we always encourage our young mothers to do is, to breastfeed, do what's natural for our children, but also eat some of our traditional foods is important. And we're not talking about the commodities or fried bread or those other things that we eat as adults that we know are impacting our health. The last few sessions we've had we started with the native chef who spoke about the importance of our diets and what we put on our plate and how to engage children with this. And I know Suzanne and the people there at the Indigenous Peoples Task Force really engage our youth in meal planning, growing, so that they could see what it takes from farm to table to find healthy foods to eat. And this week we have a young chef also sharing some of that same information, but incorporating.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna go from the beginning. Tell me if you can hear it.
No. No.
Here it goes. Can you hear it?
Off and on.
Whenever my head starts to hurt, before it goes from bad to feeling worse, I turn off my phone, I get down low and put my hands in the dirt. I try to stop the world from moving so fast, try to get a grip on where I'm at, simplify this dizzy life and put my feet in the grass. I'm going back to the earth, going back to the earth, going back to work, going back to the earth. The only explanation for a high rise must be that everybody wants to get high and overflow. I feel up some apartment in the sky. Well, the higher we go, the taller we grow. We lose sight of the land below. When you can have your place up in outer space. Cause my home is where my food is grown. I'm going back to the earth. Going back to the earth. Going back to work. Going back to the earth. Passing on this bridge. R-A-R-Y. Started with the motion at the bottom of the ocean. Now we're swinging from the tops of the trees. On the R-A-R-Y. Before giving me the soul, we're back to living with the in harmony. I'm going back to the earth. I'm going back to the earth. I'm going back to work. I'm going back to the earth. Going back to back to yeah.
That one's long, I won't keep that one going, but that's an example of some of our work and our kids working in the garden and our farm workers planting, harvesting, and growing the food for the products that's in our DigiBaby food. And then I think that might have been close to the end of the slide, right?
Yes, you're right. There was one last slide with your contact information, which I'm going to also include. But before we get to showing any of the last slides, I wanted to open up to everybody who may have questions for Suzanne. Questions about the food that you've seen, how she got started, how its connection has, the connection that it has to the Indigenous Peoples Task Force, and anything else that you might have related to the presentation from today. You're welcome to unmute yourself, raise your hand, or post it in the chat box, and I'll read it off for her, or she can read it, and you can engage with her. Where can we get the DigiBaby food?
Well, right now we're, like I said, in that final packaging stage, so we will hopefully have it up online here soon to be able to order from our website. And that's how we'll be able to get it out there in the market right now. Is through our website. We'll be working on stores and native communities.
Thank you. And I think that's what somebody was saying. How can they order it? How can they find it? Will this be approved for purchase through the local WIC program?
Hopefully, that's my goal, is to get it into the local WIC programs. I think that might take a little bit of time, but we're working on it.
Those are great questions. You know, it's really important to think about teaching our little ones, and this is a healthy way to start. You know, it looks like the young people are doing a lot of the farming and the gardening, and I'm not sure, Suzanne, what connection our youth that we saw in the video or in some of your pictures have to helping with this baby food. Is there any assistance that the young people are providing to this program, or exactly who's involved with it?
Oh, yeah. So we have, you know, from the beginning, the youth have been involved both young ones from, like I said, starting out with 8-year-olds, to helping out, even with us, helping out with the business design, to planting in the garden, to weeding, to, visioning, brainstorming, meditations in the garden, picking medicines. So they've been a part of this whole process. So we're grateful for all their work, and we always include them in our work.
Now, some people are wanting to know how to reach you. And so I'm going to share this last slide that I have so you all can see her contact information. But I don't know if this is where the baby food will be available or accessible, or is
Yep.
there a separate website to go to, Suzanne?
Well, right now it'll be here. And we'll be creating a website that will be standalone for IndigiBaby. But that's, again, one of the other things we've learned is marketing, trying to figure out how we're going to market it and what we're doing. We're in that last phase of trying to find a marketing firm or somebody to help guide us along the way. So like when I say this is really started from scratch, I mean from scratch. It's from the inception to now. I'm excited that it's finally here. It for a long time it seemed like it was such a slow process, and we weren't sure when it was going to happen. So we're excited, and I'm thankful for Sean Sherman to help us out with this piece with his team, and grateful for our staff and the team that helped us to get here. And then one of our farm managers, who the video you've seen, who's constantly taking pictures all the time, and she's the one that created the video, so helping us keep track of what we're doing along the way. It takes a team and a village of people, but mostly we look to those young ones and our youth to help guide us along the way.
Any other comments or questions? Because we have her here captive to share with us her wisdom, her knowledge. Somebody did put something in the chat box for you, Suzanne, about where
Yes, I am located in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Our farm is in Center City, which is a little north of the cities. Don't be shy. Everybody has a thought or a question or critique. There's always something.
I have a question.
please.
Yeah, are you available for programs to reach out to you? We have a couple of programs, grants that we're getting up, and this is awesome. Like I worked before in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Indian Health Center there, and we had a garden. This was all before the pandemic. So the pandemic kind of, changed everything, but all of these programs are starting up again. So we're just curious if we could reach out to you and maybe get some guidance, ask some questions.
Yeah, we'd love to help. We also have that curriculum that I said that's available for other people to use. And we can help provide a little bit of training around that. But yeah, sure, reach out and we'll do what we can to help.
And did you bring when you said you were growing the medicines, did you bring in a traditional person or somebody there that you said about talking and singing to the medicines and the plants? I know that's important, and you don't hear a lot about it, about people doing that or doing that part, and somebody in to do that or show you how to do that part of the planting and cultivating and harvesting it.
Yep. So so we had our executive director, Sharon Day, who's the executive director, but also an elder, who helped us with some of that work. And we invited some other elders to name our curriculum and our garden. I reached out to a mentor, a spiritual person that I work with, Michael Smith, up here in Minnesota, and he named the project for us. And so, yeah, reaching out to your elders, I think is key in getting help with that. They want to help and they have the knowledge to help that process along. But also, it's teaching our youth, the young ones. So coming up that they can do this. A lot of our youth now can sing some of these cultural songs, the tobacco songs. They can do openings at concert or conferences and events, bringing them along with you to teach along the way is part of what we do. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's it. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. And thank you for sharing that. I know I was taught, growing these medicines and foods that, you had to have you needed a relationship, you need communication with them along the way. And I grew some tobacco and sweetgrass the last couple years to get that tobacco to grow, and build that relationship with that medicine. And then once that happened, it just kind of took off. So it's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, well, you'll see, sometimes we'll see the tobacco come up by itself in the garden because it took over and it, decided to grow itself. It'll just show up. And they say that, our spiritual people say that these medicines will show up when you need them. And there's been times where I've not had any sweetgrass or sage, and it was gifted to me for something that I did, and then so then I had some. Yeah. So they're helpers. They'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I also put something in the chat. There's a program up here in the Minnesota, Michigan area with Great Lakes Intertribal Council. It's called Keep It Sacred. And they do a lot of work with young people and helping people exactly what you asked. How do we grow the gardens? How do we pray with our gardens? How do we establish something to know and teach our people, our young people, especially the sacred use of tobacco? And so that might be an organization you want to look up. I put their website in the chat box for consideration. I know every summer in June, they have a big conference at the end of June, I believe. I was there last year and I'll be going again this summer. So
I see
Yeah.
somebody asked if it was possible to come and visit. Yes, come on down. You can come see our farm anytime. We might even put you to work.
That would be amazing. Yes, thank you.
There's a question here that I've missed altogether. It says, what advice would you give to another tribe who would like to do something similar? What things would you like to help them avoid that was difficult for you to get up and going?
What advice would I give? Just do it. I think it's it's starting is the beginning, and but you'll figure it out along the way like we did. If you have the desire to do it, it'll happen. And then get your community involved if you want to help out with it, or youth, because when the youth plant the tobacco, it comes in rows. We did it the first year we did it. I had the 6 to 8 year olds, and I gave them the seeds, and normally you only need a couple seeds in there for it to grow. Well, the kids were doing it, they were young, and so we had a bunch of tobacco that just came up. Yeah, so I think it's just starting it. And like I said, we do have a curriculum if people want access to it to see what we do here as Ojibwe people. And we know that everybody has different stories or different songs for their medicines and their foods. And this is just one way we can show how we did it, that you can adapt it or, to what works in your area.
And you'd be surprised, just like what you mentioned, I don't know your name, the gentleman who was just speaking, there are small pieces of land, gardening space that are available in many tribal communities. Some are gifted. I know the IHS down up in Leech Lake area, one of the prevention specialists was recently given a plot of property to garden and start working on. And he wants to know, where do I begin? How do I begin? And these are experts that we have coming on to the sessions with y'all to provide you with good information to get you started. And like Suzanne said, just start, just get ready. Right now here where I live up in the Bemidji area, it's a little cold still. We still have a couple of feet of snow outside in the yard, but give it time, start preparing, start gathering your seeds, start gathering your elders, your traditional people to help you prepare through prayer and ceremony. And don't wait, get ready and get your young people, get your families involved. and these healthy activities. A lot of wonderful comments. We appreciate those of you who are able to stay on, those of you who have to hop off. We understand time is limited for some people, so we want to honor that. This is only the third session in our series because we have 2 more to go. Last week we had a community gardener actually on who's up in the Minneapolis area, and she does travel to various tribal communities to help people figure out what is indigenous to their area, what they can help grow in their area. But later this week on Thursday, this Thursday, we're going to have another chef. We're going to have Derek Nicholas, who is also from the Anishinaabe Ojibwe community up here in Minnesota. And he is going to talk about his connection to food from a spiritual perspective and his knowledge base of how he's traveled and looking at other indigenous populations. So the registration's here on the screen. Just want to share it with you briefly, and I'm going to go back to Suzanne. But for those of you who have to hop off, it's also available on our platform. If you go to our prevention center, our website for the American Indian Alaska Native Prevention Center, you can find the link to this Thursday session as well as next week's session, because next week we'll have, on April 18th, we'll have anthropologist and educator speaking about diabetes prevention, looking at food from that perspective for those of us who are a little bit older in age and need to be mindful of what we put into our bodies, what we put on our plates, what we cook for our families, and to continue that discussion of healthy eating.
Yeah, so I encourage you to check out Derek's presentation. Derek's great. He's actually doing a food demo for our food sovereignty workshop that we're doing this evening, and part of our series on food sovereignty and then microgreens. So that's a new thing we're just now starting to step into, is figuring out microgreens, and so that's a learning process as well. But I also wanted to just throw out there, every year we host an annual Return to First Medicines conference. And this year we're hosting it in July 27th and 28th at Mystic Lake Casino here in Shakopee, Minnesota. I'll share with her, I'll give her the information on it in case anybody wants to attend. It's a 1.5-day conference that focuses on food sovereignty, healing. We'll be doing a little bit about grief this year, and we will have a youth indigenous fashion show. And then we will have some youth that will be having some presentations around songs, teaching how to sing songs, and a little bit on staying above the influence, a little bit about why it's good to be sober. So if anybody wants any more information on that, I'll make sure that she has it. I will have the Eventbrite site up here hopefully this week for people to sign up. Again, that will be July 27th and 28th at Mystic Lake Casino here. And I just want to throw another thing out there. I'm also hosting an event on May 11th for Remember Our Loved Ones, those we've lost to opiates or alcohol. We will have an event at the state capitol. We will share pictures. If you want to share a picture of a loved one you have may lost, or somebody that's been affected or lost due to opiates and alcohol, we will create poster lawn signs and put them at the capitol and remember them with a moment of silence, but also to change that stigma around alcohol use and drug abuse, and that these are not just statistics. These are real people. And this is personal for me, as I lost my son a little over a year ago. And I want to help change the way we look and treat people who are in addiction or who are dealing with mental health issues. So that's May 11th, and that is on our website, and it's called rememberolo.org. Remember Our Loved Ones. If anybody's interested in submitting a photo of their loved ones, it's free. We print them out nicely, and then if you want that poster back, we'll ship it to you or whatever. But again, miigwech, for letting me present here with you today and share our story here on IndigiBaby and food sovereignty.
Miigwech, Suzanne, thank you everybody for participating. I know some of you asked about those 2 events. I try to type them into the chat box as quickly as I could. I don't have the link for the event during the summer, the conference that they're hosting. But as a follow-up, remember, we'll send you the recording to this session today, which will include the slide deck. Some of you were asking about the slide deck. Suzanne's contact information will also be sent to you as a follow-up. And then the GIPRA survey is important to our team, so we can get feedback from you all for the opportunities that we provide for you and your communities. You can take this knowledge back and help create healthier communities. If you have questions as a follow-up to today's event, please reach out to us. Please reach out to our center, our staff, so that we can help you in that. I also put up the Remembering Our Loved Ones link. I did put the hyperlink for that. So if you have questions or comments, you can log into that, but reach out to Suzanne. Her email, one last time, I'll put up here on the screen for you all, in case you want to reach out to her or the center that she serves at in the Minneapolis area. I'll put it on the screen one more time for everybody. And hopefully you can see that. At the top of that slide should be her direct email. And yes, there's an N after her name for her last name, Suzanne N at indigenouspeoplestf.org. And then the link below that goes to the website. When you click on that, if you type that into your URL search box, it'll take you to this landing page for their offices, the Indigenous Peoples Task Force. And you can get a lot of great information about the tobacco program, the curriculums that they have for the teaching garden, and everything else that you've heard from Suzanne today. I know some people may still have a few questions, so we'll hang on the line a few more moments, but we thank you for your time. We thank you for your respect. We thank you for the great work that you're continuing to do. As challenging as it can be, it is important work that you all do with your communities, and we want to say thank you for continuing that service. Prevention is important. Prevention keeps our communities healthy. Now, like some, yeah, miigwech. Hope to see you all on Thursday.